God kväll och shalom vänner. Profetisk uppdatering lördag 30 december 2023. Och jag försöker sitta vid kanten här lite så att jag inte skymmer den vackra flaggan för mycket som är bakom mig. Israels flagga. Jag får göra min del här för att visa mitt stöd för judarna och Israel. Det har varit en stor manifestation här i Göteborg idag på Gustav Adolfs torg. Jag arbetade tyvärr och kunde inte vara med. Men Janne var där och filmade en del som han kommer att lägga ut på YouTube. Han berättade bland annat att han blev väldigt tagen av en judisk man som talade. För han såg så sorgsen ut. Han berättade att han hade suttit i synagogan tidigare idag och undrat om det finns någon framtid för dem, för judarna. Och vad är vårt svar? Ja, man vill ju säga ja, det finns en framtid för er judar och Israel därför att Gud har sagt det. Därför finns det en framtid. Och jag vill läsa från Jeremia 31 och vers 7. Det här är löften som vi kan översätta andligt till alla som tror, alla som är på nytt födda troende på Jesus, Guds son, Jeshua Messias. Vi kan ta dem personligt därför att när vi är inympade bland Guds folk, då kan vi andligt ta dessa löften och vi får dessa löften gäller oss också. Men det gäller först och främst Israel. Naturligtvis så vet vi att även judarna har val att göra. Och vi ber att de ska ta emot Jesus, sin Messias. Och verkligen ge sina liv till Herren, sin Gud. Men det är ändå så att Israel och det judiska folket är Guds land och Guds folk. Genom hela historien, tills Jesus kommer tillbaka. Så gäller det. Och därför gäller de här löftena först och främst bokstavligen till Israel. Till Jakob, som de också kallas. Det är olika benämningar. Ty så säger Herren, jubla i glädje över Jakob, höj fröjderop över honom som är den främste bland folken. Brist ut i lovsång och säg, fräls Herre, ditt folk, det som finns kvar av Israel. Så går vi till vers 10. Hör Herrens ord, ni hedna folk, det är vi det. Hedna folk, vi som inte är judar. Gäller alla som inte är judar. Och förkunna det i kustländerna, i fjärran. Ja, det är ju i Europa och Amerika och västvärlden. Kanske framför allt och så vidare runt jorden. Säg, han som skingrade Israel skall också samla det och bevara det som en herder bevarar sin jord. Gud har alltså stora planer och tankar, fridens tankar om Israel. Och Israels frälsning kommer. Vers 16. Men så säger Herren, sluta med din högljudda gråt, låt inte dina ögon falla tårar, ty ditt verk ska få sin lön, säger Herren, och de skall vända tillbaka från sina fienders land. Det finns hopp för din framtid, säger Herren, dina barn ska vända tillbaka till sitt land. Så går vi till Jeremia 29 vers 11. Jag vet vilka tankar jag har för er, säger Herren, nämligen fridens tankar och inte ofärdens, för att ge er en framtid och ett hopp. Det här gäller först och främst Israel. Guds Israel, och det gäller oss. Alla som tror, men det gäller först och främst det judiska folket. Ni ska kalla på mig och komma och be till mig, och jag skall höra er. Ni ska söka mig, och ni skall också finna mig, om ni söker mig av hela ert hjärta. Och är det någon uppgift och kallelse som vi har som kallar oss hedna kristna, så är det att visa Guds egendomsfolk kärlek, tröst i den här tiden. Att vi står med dem, att vi ber för dem, att vi välsignar dem. Det är en stor uppgift som vi har. Så går jag till lite nyheter här. Amir Tsarfati skriver idag på Telegram. Han visar en bild från Berlin 1945 och frågar: vem bar skulden för denna förstörelse? De allierade eller nazisterna? Det är en bra fråga. Det finns ingen som skulle säga att det är de allierades fel. Nej, de stred ju mot ondskan själv. De stred mot nazisterna som höll på att förgöra nästan hela mänskligheten om de hade fått fortsätta. Den här bilden hade ju kunnat vara från Gaza. Och han uppmanar nu då: gör nu samma sak för Gaza. Vem bär skulden? Hamas. Hamas bär hela skulden. Och jag tror att det var igår som han skrev, Amir, Gaza är ungefär så. Gaza är den största terrorbasen på planeten jorden. Det är ju så fullproppat med vapen och vapenförråd av alla dess slag och tunnlar. Och det enda målet man har är att utplåna Israel och förgöra Israel och judarna. Fruktansvärd ondska alltså. Och jag skulle vilja citera Jesus när han talar till fariseer och sadduceer, de som var hycklare på den tiden. Men de här orden, de gäller idag. Han kallar dem huggormsyngel. Ni huggormsyngel, vem har fått er att tro att ni kan undfly den kommande vredesdomen? Nu är det ett par saker som jag vill poängtera här. Huggormsyngel, ja, det kan ju låta lustigt i vårt svenska språk. Men det är naturligtvis en naturlig innebörd i orden. Huggormsyngel, det betyder att man är djävulens barn. Den gamla ormen, Satan, djävulen. Då är man djävulens barn. Och det är vad Hamas är. Hamas-terrorister, de är huggormsyngel. Och likaså pro-palestinierna som utan orsak hatar judarna och Israel. Dagens nazister. Det kan vi kalla huggormsyngel. Enligt Jesu ord. Sen är det en sak till här. Vem har fått er att tro att ni kan fly undan den kommande vredesdomen? Ta det ordet vredesdomen och för över på det ordet där man säger att vi som är frälsta inte är ämnade för vredesdomen. Och då är det många kristna som felaktigt tror att det gäller vedermödan. Det här har vi ju påpekat hur många gånger som helst genom åren. Men det är värt att påminna om. Vi är inte ämnade åt vredesdomen. Det ordet är inte tlipsi som betyder vedermöda. Utan ordet är orge. Orge, det är den yttersta domen. Vreden. Och den eviga domen som är kvar över syndaren som inte omvänder sig. Och tar emot Guds frälsning. Samma ord är här. Orge. Det är annars skulle det ju bli helt konstigt här. Vem har fått er att tro, ni huggormsyngel, vem har fått er att tro att ni kan fly undan den kommande vedermödan? Så är det ju omöjligt att översätta. Lika fel är det att översätta den andra versen i första Thessalonikerbrevet med att vi inte ämnade åt vredesdomen. Och tro att det är vedermödan det syftar på. Det är det inte. Det är samma som här. Det är samma ord som här. De kan inte fly undan vredesdomen, alltså domen, den slutliga domen över syndare som inte omvänder sig. Så, lite om den versen. som Amir frågar här, vems fel är detta förstörelsen, och det är helt och hållet Hamas fel. De har stulit alla pengar, bidragspengar till vapen och tunnlar. De har stulit dem de har försett sig själva, Hamas-ledarna, och sina familjemedlemmar lever i lyx och rikedom medan befolkningen är fattiga. Det är jordens avskum alltså. De är värda att kalla huggormsyngel. Ursäkta, men så är det. Om Jesus sa det om hycklarna på den tiden, och säger det om Hamas-terrorister och alla liknande människor som beter sig så. Fruktansvärt. Lite mer från telegram här idag som Amir skrev. Sydafrikas kriminella regering har klagat till internationella domstolen i Haag över att Israel håller på att begå ett folkmord. Det är intressant eftersom sist jag kollade var det den korrupta regeringen som ständigt blundar för massakern på vita farmare över hela Sydafrika. Hur som helst, detta är svaret från det israeliska utrikesministeriet. Och det här är ett väldigt bra svar som följer här. Israel avvisar med avsky den blodsanklagelse som Sydafrika sprider i sin ansökan till internationella domstolen. Sydafrikas krav saknar både saklig och rättslig grund och utgör ett föraktligt och föraktfullt utnyttjande av domstolen. Sydafrika samarbetar med en terroristorganisation som uppmanar till utplåning av staten Israel. Terroristorganisationen Hamas, som begår krigsförbrytelser, brott mot mänskligheten och försökte begå folkmord den 7 oktober, är ansvarig för palestiniernas lidande på Gazaremsan genom att använda dem som mänskliga sköldar och stjäla humanitärt bistånd från dem. Israel har förbundit sig till internationell rätt och agerar i enlighet med den och riktar sina militära insatser enbart mot terroristorganisationen Hamas och de andra terroristorganisationer som samarbetar med Hamas. Israel har gjort klart att invånarna på Gazaremsan inte är fienden och gör allt man kan för att begränsa skadorna på civila och underlätta införseln av humanitärt bistånd till Gazaremsan. Vi uppmanar internationella domstolen och det internationella samfundet att fullständigt avvisa Sydafrikas grundlösa krav. Mycket bra svar. Mycket bra svar. Det här ska basuneras ut. Och jag har tänkt en del på det uppvaknandet som skedde efter 7 oktober. Dels har ju Israel tvingats förstå att Hamas vill bara ont. De vill bara ont. För det andra har man fått inse och vaknat upp över att vänsteridéer är en utopi och en illusion. Vänsteridéer har alltid lett till orättvisor. Det har alltid lett till förföljelse. Det har aldrig fungerat. Och det beror på den tredje punkten som jag har här. Och den är att människan är inte god innerst inne. Det har Jesus talat om, det har Gud talat om i Bibeln. För länge sedan. Och det bara bekräftas gång på gång på gång. Människan inbillar sig saker, lever i illusioner och fantasier, men Gud får alltid rätt. Gud får alltid rätt. Matteus 15 och vers 19, här säger Jesus: ty från hjärtat kommer onda tankar, mord, äktenskapsbrott, otukt, stöld, falskt vittnesbörd och hädelser. Sådant orenar människan. Men att äta utan att tvätta händerna gör inte människan oren. Det var ju de skriftlärde här och fariseer som var väldigt noga med att klaga på att lärjungarna inte tvättade händerna innan måltiden. De var ju så noga med alla dessa yttre bud och lagar. Men det Jesus talar om här, att det som orenar människan, det är det som kommer från hjärtat. Det är inte det vi äter. Ja, så är det. Och även om vi alla människor väljer väg, så vet vi att synden är det som orsakar detta. Och synden måste tas itu med. Och det gjorde Jesus på Golgata. Därför får vi av nåd ta emot hans förlåtelse och rening. Bekänna våra synder, bekänna att vi är syndare. Vi är inte goda innerst inne. Och det visar ju hela historien. Men tänk att Gud älskar oss ändå och erbjuder sin frälsning. Det är fantastiskt. Ja, här kommer en video från End Time Ministry med svensk text. Och jag vill bara stryka under någonting här i början som de tar upp här, som är väldigt viktigt. Och det är att enligt internationell lag har man rätt att behålla land, alltså område, som man vinner i krig om man blir attackerad. Det här är bra att bli påmind om. Det är väldigt bra att bli påmind om. Alltså enligt internationell lag har man rätt att behålla landområden som man vinner i krig om man attackeras. Alltså i försvarskrig. Så alla områden som man kallar ockuperade av Israel, det är en lögn. Det är en lögn. För det tillhör Israel. Och det var ju särskilt i 6-dagarskriget när Israel blev attackerat hastigt från många håll. Och de intog och föste tillbaka fienderna. Och intog där och intog i norr och intog där och intog där. När jag bodde i Israel på 80-talet, då hörde ju hela Sinai-halvön till Israel. Som de sen för fredsavtalen då lämnade tillbaka till Egypten. Men egentligen hade Israel rätt till hela Sinai. Och vi var där nere. Jag och mina tjejkompisar som reste omkring och lyfta där nere, ända ner till Sharm el-Sheikh, och man sov under den här fantastiska stjärnhimlen i öknen. Helt otroligt. Jag har aldrig sett en sån natthimmel som där i Sinaiöknen alltså. Helt fantastiskt. Man bodde i Dahab. Man bodde i en beduinby på ett ställe. Man sov under en så här liten grupp av palmer, ofta så man tätt ihop där. På stranden, underbar himmel, och så var vi nere i Sharm el-Sheikh. Och då såg man Saudiarabien på andra sidan där, Röda havet. Ja, det var spännande. Det var väldigt kul. Nu tillhör alltså Sinai Egypten då. Men här kommer i alla fall den här videon. Jag hoppas att den ska vara till intresse och välsignelse. Och jag önskar er också Guds välsignelse. Tackar för den här gången. Återkommer imorgon. Shalom.
With prophetic fulfillments taking place on a daily basis, 2024 is gearing up to be a momentous year. We'll discuss 6 things Jesus said to expect that could happen in the next 12 months. You're not going to believe number 5. Is it possible that Matthew 24 will come to pass in 2024? We'll talk about it today on the End Time Show. Welcome to the End Time Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. Today is a great day. It's our final show of the year, Doug, and we do a what to expect in 2024. Tomorrow's open line, so today we're going to do what to expect next year. There's 6 things to talk about, and it's Matthew 24 in 2024. We're asking that question, is that possible that that could happen? It's kind of our custom here to do that every year, so here we are talking about 6 things to be looking for. People might be surprised by number 5, but I guess we'll wait and find out.
Yeah, they're always surprised by at least one of them anyway, right?
At least one.
Yeah. So
we hear from them about at least one.
Yeah.
So we won't be taking your calls because we have a lot to talk about. We won't be able to get to calls, and we don't want you to be mad at us for waiting on hold for so long. But not only is today a great day because of that, but we also got a new roast from First Cup, the Boston Common, which I think is my new favorite. It's named after the very first park in the United States in Boston. First Cup is a Christian-owned Patriot Coffee company out of the great state of Texas. They've got 11 different roasts, each one named after a specific piece of American history. You can get one of them ground whole bean or even in the pods for your Keurig machine. Ditch the grocery store coffee that has been sitting there for up to 2 years. Go to firstcup.com, use code ENDTIME to get 10% off. If you subscribe, they'll actually give you another 10% off. Firstcup.com, use code ENDTIME. All right, Doug, we diving right in?
Yeah, I think we should.
Number one. What's number one thing to expect?
Well, you know what? I think before we go there, let's read Matthew 24 and let people know what we're talking about. Because Matthew 24 is a big chapter.
Yes.
And Jesus told us specific things to look for. When he was asked, you know, what shall be the sign of thy coming in the end of the age, he gave some things that we should look for. So let's start with that before we jump into our headlines and talk about that.
All right, and one more thing before we do that. We need their help to share this video so people can see what to expect in 2024. So share the video, love it, give us the red heart instead of the blue thumbs up. And also comment, what are you looking for in 2024? Maybe there are 1 or 2 things you think are going to happen from a prophetic perspective. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Put it in the comments. And yeah, share the video. Matthew 24, starting in verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another, and many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. So Matthew 24 and 2024, is all that going to happen next year, Doug?
Well, you know, it's very interesting, Vince, because as I was putting this together today and kind of going through there, you know, we had a talk before I started on gathering information.
Yes.
And I told you this turned into a bigger project than I thought, and I had to cut stuff out because of the fact that there is so much information in this study that we're doing here, or this lesson that we're doing here. We couldn't even cover all the content that's in these articles because there's just so much going on right now. So yes, I do believe, to answer your question, that it's very likely that these things could come to pass in 2024. Some of them are already happening as we're sitting here talking about it right now. So it's interesting, the things that are going to happen. And this first article that I pulled up today is very interesting because we've talked about this scenario, Vince, of this war escalating that's happening right now in the Middle East, and how that would happen is if America and Iran got directly involved in a war. It could bring in Russia, it could bring in China, it could bring in our allies into it then. Remember, we already have a 10-nation coalition in the Red Sea.
Right.
And India, yesterday I saw where India sent in a lot of new warships into that area because some of the supply chain that they're expecting is being disrupted, and so, you know, they're getting involved in this with bringing in some warships of their own. Remember, India is one of those countries that can field a 200 million man army. So you know, it's interesting when you see India sending warships into this region as well. So, having said that, this article from Newsmax, I'll let you kind of tell everybody what it's about, and then we can kind of look at the
Well,
highlights.
I think the headline is what will catch everyone's attention.
Yes.
Iran declared war on the United States.
Yeah. So if that doesn't catch your attention and get you going, okay, wait a second, this is exactly what we've been talking about. But what they're saying, it's not like Iran stood up and said, hey, we declare war on the U.S. We're going, toe-to-toe with the United States of America. That's not what this article is talking about. But what this article is talking about are the rules and the engagements of war, according to what the international law is with the UN and everything. So under international law events, it says that as long as the attacks are directed at military targets, which they have been. Remember, we lost a soldier over Christmas, on Christmas in that attack. We've been attacked.
We lost one, or they're in critical condition?
No, that person died, so we lost one soldier. So we've had one critically injured to death. He's gone now, and we've had others that were hurt really bad as well in that attack. But there's been 100 attacks now on U.S. compounds there in Iraq and surrounding areas. So that's what this says. Under international law, as long as the attacks are directed at military targets, the attacked nation may use overwhelming or disproportionate force in order to deter or punish the attacking army. And it also says international law provides that the counterattack need not be directed specifically at the military targets that were involved in that initial attack, but we can, like, these are what they call Iran's proxies. So these are tentacles of Iran through their terrorist proxies that they have that have been attacking us. Not directly attacks by Iran.
It's not the Iran army.
Right. It's not their imperial soldiers and things. This is just their paid terrorist armies. And remember, they've been using Iran drones to do this, okay? So the for example is what really caught my eye. For example, it says the United States would be entitled to destroy Iran's potential nuclear arsenal in response to the attacks directed at American troops by Iran's proxies. So we would be able to go after their nuclear facilities and destroy those under international law. We wouldn't even have to ask permission for that or go before the Security Council or anything like that. We could directly go after that. Now,
Doug, the part that jumps out at me is the question is not one of legality or even morality.
Right.
So they're saying now that Iran has acted the way that they have, the United States has a legal and moral pass to respond however they desire, apparently.
Yeah, according to international written law, we do. But also remember that according to international written law events, when a country attacks you and you take country back, like let's say 1967 when Israel was attacked by the Arab nations surrounding them, and then they took back the Temple Mount plus the West Bank area, by international law, they should be able to keep that area. But now they're being called war criminals because they are occupying that land. That was never the Palestinians' land. It was controlled by Jordan and the Jordanians. But Israel, when they were attacked, they pushed everybody back and they got that land. According to international law, they can do that. So just because this is according to international law, like this article says, the question is, will we do something? And if we do something in response, what will be the international community's response to what we do with Iran?
Well, I think we kind of know. They're definitely not going to be in favor of anything.
Right.
Based off of how they've responded to Israel and even other United States attacks in the past. So it's going to be interesting. And, you know, we're talking about wars and rumors of war, which Jesus said would be coming.
Right.
You know, a highlight there for me in what Jesus said is, see that ye be not troubled. You know, it's easy for people to be troubled about wars and rumors of wars. I mean, this is not pleasant to talk about. It's not pleasant to see the video clips going around social media, hear about people dying, whether they're grown or children or whatever age. Death is not pleasant. And so, see that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And so I think we try to do a good job at that, is reporting what is going on, telling people what the Bible says is coming, but also reminding everyone not to be troubled in spite of our circumstances that are surrounding us. So just a quick reminder as we're going through some pretty harsh news.
And remember, Jesus also told us in Scripture that the reason why he tells us things before they happen is so when we begin to see those things happening, it builds our faith. It helps us believe. And so this is faith-building information. We're seeing these things. And remember, we're talking about, could this potentially happen in 2024? Could this Scripture completely be fulfilled in 2024? If it is, I will say this. If it is, the next thing that's fulfilled in there, or the next thing that comes from there, is the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached into all the world, and then we'll see the abomination of desolation take place. So we're at least 7 years from the Battle of Armageddon, 3.5 years from the abomination of desolation. So these are just things we're putting out there because Jesus said to look for these things, and we're seeing a lot of these things already beginning to happen, and they will more than likely increase in 2024.
So 6 things that we're highlighting to expect in 2024. The first one is wars and rumors of wars. Of course, there's additional stories to talk about. And we know that we're going into a presidential election year. And one thing that you can be sure of in 2024 will be a turbulent year. And you already see the impacts of inflation at the pump, in the grocery store, the North and the South, as the war in Gaza rages on. So this is another reminder that wars and rumors of wars are happening.
Yeah. And a lot is going on there because, remember, when we talked to the retired lieutenant there a couple of weeks ago from Israel, that she was in the IDF. She talked about one of the things she had done as she had evacuated her children from her home in the northern country. So now they are taking on rocket hits in the northern country. This article actually came out today, and it says that there were 34 rockets were fired from Lebanon, which is up in the northern area around where the Golan Heights are, where we see the Sea of Galilee. All that area up there is where this area is. Now, one of the things that happened is they hit a church. They directly blew up a church. Hezbollah did. They hurt the pastor of that church. He was actually a priest because it was a Catholic church that they hit. And when the IDF soldiers went in to rescue the people in the church that had been injured from this rocket fire, there were snipers set up, and they began to snipe the soldiers that were going in there and trying to save these people in that church. So this is one of the things that people don't understand. We're dealing with terrorists, and a lot of the protests that's going on for Free Palestine and all these things, they don't realize that what the terrorists are doing is hitting these kind of targets. And then, they built their tunnels under these kind of targets in Gaza, trying to draw fire from Israel. And they knew that Israel wouldn't hit those targets because the whole world would be against Israel. But yet they don't mind hitting churches, killing priests or injuring priests, and then sniping at these soldiers. But anyway, this article, what it's telling us is that not only is it heating up now with Hezbollah to the north, but it is heating up with the Houthis to the south in Yemen. And they are even talking about, remember we mentioned this last week in one of the articles, that an army of thousands of young military men are prepared to go into southern Gaza to help fight in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip. So Israel is now facing a war not only in Gaza, not only in the West Bank, because remember there's terrorist cells there too, and they've had all kinds of things happen in the West Bank. We don't hear as much about that because we're focused mainly in Gaza and to the north with Hezbollah. But now they're being hit from the north, from the south, and from both sides. So that ring of fire we've talked about that Iran has tried to set up for many years is now complete, and it's closing in on Israel. So that's what we're seeing. So that's one of the things. Also, we also issued a guided missile destroyer, the United States did, the USS Laboon, and it has F-18 fighter jets from the Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group, and we've shot down 12 different drones that have tried to attack down in that southern region and the Red Sea, where we talked about they've been attacking supply ships. So that's heating up more and more. This is an article straight from today The next one's from today, it just gives us a little bit more information. I threw it in there just because they're saying that Israel will pay a heavy price. Iran is saying they will pay a heavy price because they actually got one of their leading commanders in the Northern Command there in Lebanon. They killed him in one of their raids. And so now the Islamic Revolutionary Guard commander is saying, he said this from Syria on Monday, he said Israel would pay a high price for what they've done. So doesn't look like they're backing down, doesn't look like that's going to go anywhere in the year coming up. I mean, we're days away from 2024, and it looks like this is only heating up.
Now, Doug, we've talked about Israel, we've talked about the United States and Iran and stuff going on in the Middle East. What about Russia, Ukraine? How does that fit into all this?
Well, we've seen that war too. I mean, we reported on it yesterday that the Ukraine destroyed a military vessel that belonged to Russia. A huge victory for the Ukrainian military and for their Air Force, basically, that did this. And Russia's trying to downplay it and say that the damage wasn't that bad, but they said that they had snapshots of it in the daylight, and it just looked like burned out wreckage kind of protruding out of the water there along the shoreline. So it sounds like it was completely destroyed. That's a huge win for the people there. And so we're looking at, that war doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon either.
I saw where Vladimir Putin ally fell out of his third-story window and died. And there's suspicion about whether or not there was foul play on that. So there's all sorts of things going on in that regard,
really
and of course things seem to continue to heat up, which has global implications. I mean, we've felt it, from the Russia-Ukraine war already, and that, I mean, there's a lot more that could develop there, especially with NATO involved, and and we haven't even talked about China and Taiwan yet.
Right.
What's going on there?
Well, same situation happening. China continues to come into the no-fly zone, the no-fly zone, and the no-entry zone there along the straits of Taiwan. So they continue to come in by sea and by air, invade their military space, and threaten Taiwan, and just kind of, stick their thumb in the eye of the, American troops that are there. Like, we're going to do whatever we want to, because they see an opportunity here, and that could escalate also in 2024.
Doug, this one doesn't feel like nearly like global implications, but I'm sure you've heard about what's going on. We haven't even talked about it, so this is everyone out there watching. You're getting it live on the air from Doug's first response to it. Venezuela and Guyana. Have you heard about what's going on down there?
I don't guess I have.
Well, they have sent in warships. Great Britain has as well, from what I understand. There's a portion of Guyana that I think it's Venezuela believes should belong to them. They've recently discovered oil there. There's billions of dollars in oil. And so Venezuela is saying that land is ours.
Well, yeah.
And so Great Britain is defending Guyana.
Wow.
And so they have warships down there, which is in South America. And who knows what could develop out of that. Now, like I said, it doesn't feel like it has as much global implications, but nonetheless, that is something brewing near the southern border. Not as, of course, not the U.S.-Mexico border, but it's not that far away from us.
Not too far away from us at all.
And you didn't even say anything about North Korea yet, Doug.
Yeah,
on top of all that.
Yeah, so that's a huge one. Another thing that I didn't add into the post today is that I saw an article where a landing strip that we have that's actually an island off of the coast of Japan has been reinstated, and it hasn't been used since World War II. And it's actually been taken back over by the United States again to build it back up and have an island there where they could actually have ships closer and planes closer to a Chinese attack. So they are, beefing that up. So there's that. Then we've got this North Korea where they have threatened America, saying that they tested that long-range nuclear missile the other day, and they said that they just wanted to do that as a reminder to the United States that they are watching them, and they are going to deal with America very harshly if America tries to do anything to North Korea and what they decide to do with their proxies. and their allies. So yeah, it's like everybody is banging that war drum right now, and it always seems like everybody's coming after America. It's almost like everyone is teaming up together to put put the thumb down on America and kind of let America know, hey, we're all coming against you now. So
Doug, Irvin's original message about World War III was subtitled "The Entrance Ramp to the Antichrist." World War III, the entrance ramp to the Antichrist. And so we've taught, probably for decades at this point, that we believed a world war was coming, and as a result of that, the Antichrist would be able to step on the scene and establish power like never before, establish this globalist system, the world government beast that we see in Revelation. And these globalists, they want you to do things like eat 3D printed steaks and burgers made from cricket powder and all sorts of crazy stuff that nobody out here wants to do.
Next thing that Jesus talked about was famines. And so, I mean, that kind of moves us into that, because that's one of the things that the WEF wants us to do. Like you said, they don't want us eating meat. They want to shut down our cattle farms and stop the production of beef and reduce even the milk companies and everything, because of the fact that when you have the cows, you have to use fertilizers and you have to use feeds. They believe that this causes gas emissions because of the cows, and so all that. That's why they're trying to reduce all this. So we have seen, the last couple of years, Vince, we've seen food manufacturers be destroyed, which is kind of weird. We've talked about it before on the program before, how there's been strange fires. There's been 2 of them that were hit with airplanes.
There's been hundreds of cattle just die out in the field at the same exact time.
Very strange things.
Very strange.
And so to see that there could be a famine coming, it's very interesting. But I went on the UNICEF page today, and they talked about the Horn of Africa. Now, one of the things that's interesting about this is a Muslim-controlled area. And if you remember, when we look at Revelation chapter, man, I can't even remember what chapter it is now. Revelation chapter 6, thank you. Nobody gave me that in my ear. God just brought that back to my...
The Lord did.
Yeah, the Lord did that. So when we talk about the green horse in Revelation chapter 6, it's the 4th horseman, and we believe that is Islam, because it's the pale horse, but it was translated, chloros was translated pale, it should have been green. So we believe that is Islam on the rise. And as a matter of fact, that's what Dave is going to do his conferences on this year, is on the green horse.
I was actually about to mention that. He has a brand new lesson that he's teaching.
If you remember, Islam, one of the things that it says that they kill with is famine. They kill with the sword, but they also kill with famine. And this is one of those areas that is mostly Muslim controlled, that we're talking about, the Horn of Africa there. But anyway, on the UNICEF page, they actually talk about the coming year and how we're going to have a food shortage, especially in this area, and it's going to affect 37 million people. I mean, that is a huge population there. And they said 20 million of those are children. So this is something that, like I said, I pulled it straight off the UNICEF page, because they talked about how they need aid to help with this situation. But we're also seeing, because of the wars, I mean, the Russian-Ukraine war, remember, Ukraine is one of the largest deliverers of the grain that we use to feed places like this. I mean, that's one of the things that they use. They use grain for all kinds of different foods. And so that's been affected because of this war. And then also because of the war with Israel and Hamas right now, one of the things that's being affected is the supply chain in the Red Sea, which is why the coalitions come together.
A lot more to talk about on the other side of the break.
They issued an article saying they are deeply concerned over this impact that the war between Israel and Hamas has brought on civilians struggling to get essential food supplies, especially with the electricity and communications being down in Gaza right now. They're worried about that area. Along with, they added, along with that deep concern is what's happening also in the Red Sea there. So these concerns are very real, especially for those regions. But we got to remember what happens is when we do that, that Red Sea is a global impact, okay? It has to do with global trade. They use the Red Sea as a direct link there to get these supplies through. And it's not just supplies on food, but it's also clothing and other things that people need. It's all kinds of supplies, including gas and oil, which is why we're seeing our gas prices go back up. I noticed that they're back up close to $3 here in Texas. They've been down for the past several weeks. They've been down, around $2.40, somewhere in there, and now it's back up close to $3 again. And so we're starting to see the effects of that because what's happened is because of these raids on these ships by these drones, and even there's been, where Iran has attacked on the other side in the Straits of Hormuz, where they've come down with the speedboats and taken over ships and things like that are going on. So these sea captains have decided, these companies have decided to take their ships around Africa's Cape of Good Hope, which causes about a 10 to 12 day delay. They said it could be weeks delay adding up as ships begin to stack up in that area. So it's causing quite a problem, and now the UN is even concerned about it, and we're talking about things that will affect the United States too. So there is a possibility we could see an increase of that where famine could hit more regions than just Africa there. So anyway, just something to think about. Like we said, we're looking at things that Jesus told us to look for, and what is the possibility that those things could happen in 2024, Vince.
Now, our last election year, Doug, we had a major pestilence. I don't know if you heard about this little thing called COVID-19.
Man, I did.
Now, whether that's election year related is beside the point, but 2024 is an election year. Jesus said one of the things he listed is pestilence.
Right.
Where do you see pestilences occurring possibly in 2024?
Well, it's interesting because, right now we have an outbreak, which is normal for this time of year, of the flu, that's a normal thing to have the flu. Remember, during COVID, the flu kind of went away and all we heard about was COVID. And so we know COVID was a very real thing. We know COVID still exists. Right now, there are so many people, and we know a lot. We've been affected here, even in end time. You remember I was just getting over it. Vince was getting over it not too long ago, and we have other team members right now that are going through this. But there's RSV, which is something that we haven't heard of as much in adults as we have in children and babies. But now it seems to be affecting adults. Now they've even come out with a new vaccine for that, and they're trying to push this RSV vaccine as well. So now they're looking at, you need to get the flu shot, the COVID shot, and the RSV shot. So just things to think about as this new election year gears up. Dr. Peter McCullough, who Vince actually knows personally, Dr. McCullough, and Dr. McCullough has made posts talking about something that's been going on in China for a while now that you don't hear a whole lot about, but there is a mystery pneumonia, Vince, in China, in the same area where the COVID came from.
We're talking about 6 things that could happen in the next 12 months.
Right.
Number 1, Jesus highlighted in Matthew 24 that we should be looking for wars and rumors of war. Now this is just before, this is in the end times. Right. This is before the Great Tribulation occurs. Before the second coming. So wars and rumors of wars, famines, pestilences. The next one is earthquakes. This is number 4, by the way, earthquakes. Well, that's been happening forever.
Right.
So why highlight that today?
Yeah, so we just had a major one happen in Turkey that killed thousands and thousands of people. We'll talk about that article in a minute. I know we're getting real close to a break, so I didn't want to get into that article. But the reason why we're looking at this is because I found an article that actually came out in October of this year, and it said, are earthquakes happening more? So that caught my attention. We'll talk about that a little bit on the other side of the break.